Hey, Fancy Action Now fans, subscribers, viewers, and otherwise. This is El Viejo Toro of Fancy Action News with breaking news in regards to the real-life Biohazard Resident Evil scenario that is quietly unfolding in China.
Bruh.
Behind the new Iron Curtain, people are falling on their faces, falling dead in the streets. Every hospital in China is overloaded.
Bruh.
The death rate on this disease is likely, these are hypotheses, but based on a lot of videos that are being sneaked out of China, this disease is literally a real-world biohazard scenario. The epicenter of the fish market was only a few miles, I believe it was 9 miles from a university that was practicing viral research on the very viruses that we're talking about, the coronaviruses, and studying bats and the different types of effects of these viruses. They were also doing gene sequencing on these viruses, literally creating hybrids. 20 miles from the same fish market was another lab, not attached to a university, but it was one of the first labs to study SARS, coronavirus, and these other viruses, and to practice gene sequencing. Additionally, bioengineers from China that were working in Canada, the scientists themselves, their family members, were terminated from their positions. They were escorted off the Canadian research facility, and they were deported back to China, just preceding the outbreak of this virus. So you have elements of genetic manipulation, industrial espionage, government-level cover-ups, and what may or may not be an accidental release
Bruh.
of a tailored virus, that has some aspects of HIV. So it's almost like they took a virus to be an animal virus, coronavirus, to be a carrier for HIV.
Bruh.
Basically making HIV an airborne virus. Very frightening stuff. Very frightening stuff if you get into just some of the cursory information that's starting to come out. Now, all of this I will decry as it is a hypothesis. All of this is hypothesis at this point because we have some videos that people are talking about. And the key message here is that we are literally watching Resident Evil unfold. We're literally watching Resident Evil unfold. Unfortunately, some of this is sponsored by governments. Unfortunately, this may have been a bioweapon. Unfortunately, it is released. And there is one video of a nurse, and there's many videos of nurses having emotional, physical collapses because of being overworked and what they're waiting for. One nurse in one of her videos says, at her job, she goes, "Only death awaits me here." And the more I watch what's going on here, the more one other nurse said that there are actually more like 90,000 cases. So what I think you can do is, we all know that China is a totalitarian regime. We all know that they control the information and they ban people. They restrict any kind of freedom of speech or access to an open platform. And we all need to take notice of how destructive this can be when the people on the ground that need to act for the benefit of the community cannot do so because they either lack the information or they lack the authority to do anything. So take a close look at what's going on in terms of censorship in China and how it is likely dooming thousands to their death. So when you look at the United States and the censorship that's going on this platform, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc., when you start looking at the censorship that goes on, it's not just trying to manipulate thought and ideas. It literally can result in the deaths of tens of thousands, if not more, people because the government is controlling the information. Governments exist, all governments exist to perpetuate themselves. They all grow, they all get bigger, and eventually they become a predator. They predate on their own people. China's government has become the predator on its own people as they slowly watch, the parasitic government of China slowly watches as the host is consumed, dissolves in front of them, hearkening, presaging their irrelevancy. Because a parasite cannot live without the host. The host is the populace. Governments don't produce anything. They take from the populace and they distribute it, they keep it, they hoard it, whatever it is they do. They parasite on the populace. And in the extreme cases, the parasite becomes a predator. So we are watching the Chinese government go from a parasitic, totalitarian regime to a predator upon its own people. So this is a very serious scenario. It's to be taken very seriously. But don't let these people's death be in vain. If you understand and you take the learnings from this kind of thing and why freedom of speech is such a cornerstone and personal responsibility, personal action. Yes, you can take risks and suffer consequences. But when you're not allowed to take risks, such as in this scenario, the mayor of Wuhan, who was awaiting instructions from the central government, a mayor of a town, a city, could not take action to the benefit of his people without the central government of the entire country of China telling him it was okay. You cannot run a serious organization. You have to give certain latitudes and autonomy. You just have to pick good leaders. You have to give them some autonomy to act as boots on the ground when a situation calls for it. You cannot hamstring them and say, take no action. You're a leader, but take no action unless we say so. That's not a leader. That's a drone. You might as well have a mannequin sitting in that seat. You might as well have a sending receiver box in there. Because a leader steps up and takes action, regardless of the consequences to themselves, to protect their community, their family, their people. So, the central government of China is at fault here. And they have released a virus unto the world that is basically, maybe, just a theory, maybe airborne HIV. Wow. So I'm going to echo the sentiments of Styx Hexenhammer 666 and say you should prepare 30 days, 2 weeks, whatever you can afford, whatever you can start to compile. Get some drinking water. Get a bag of rice. Get a way to cook that rice without electricity. Stockpile some food. Buy a week of freeze-dried food somewhere. Patriot Supply, My Patriot Supply. There are a bunch of places that do it. And you can get a week, at least a week of like freeze-dried meals that if you had to, if you couldn't get out of the house, if you were quarantined, you could stretch that into a couple of weeks, maybe more. So I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm just saying, prepare. Maybe get some masks. Maybe store some food. Maybe store some water. But we're watching an actual biohazard, an actual Resident Evil scenario unfolding before us in China and across the world. This is something to pay attention to. This is something to prepare for. This is something that will be a cornerstone of 2020. This is already in the history books. Now, if that nurse, and this is what I thought too, I thought before I even saw that nurse's video, because a totalitarian regime is only interesting in perpetuating itself, and it will lie vigorously to create the idea that everything's under control. They are blocking roads, they are blocking bridges, the world is shutting the door on them. The United States is evacuating its consulate in Wuhan, and more will follow. More American diplomats will be pulled from China. The situation is not contained. The situation has gone into full lockdown, martial law, military curfews. You're not allowed on the streets. People are being stuffed into vans. Bodies are being cremated. There's a whole other aspect of the crematories in the area are working 24 hours a day to burn bodies. It takes, and a lot of people, you don't know how long it takes to burn a human body. It takes a long time. We're mostly water. So it takes about 3 hours to burn one human body. If you have the equipment, it takes longer if you don't. But if you're in a crematory, it takes about 3 hours to burn a full-grown person. It would probably take me about 5 hours. Okay. The crematoriums. Then finally the government couldn't hide the fact, and they came out and they said, the central government actually released a statement stating into their government state media that it's recommended that you burn the bodies immediately. Even though they were already doing so, but their crematoriums, there are far more. You can take the numbers that they're giving you, and throw a zero on it. Easy. Throw a zero on it. 1,700, 1,800 cases, it's 18,000. Is it 18,000 cases? It's 180,000. You can multiply 10 to 100 times what the real results are going on inside China right now. The nurse on the video said 90,000 cases, and that was a couple days ago. So now you're talking about 100,000 people. One other nurse snuck a video out that she says one person that isn't showing symptoms is likely to infect 14 others. That is geometric progression. Geometric progression. That is going to eat the core out of this country. It is going to literally core out China. And the death rate on this thing, again, throw a zero on it. If they're telling you it's 5% death rate, it's 50%. It's 40%. They're hiding behind the numbers. People are dropping in the streets. People are being forced into ambulances. Crematories are running 24 hours a day, burning bodies. So one crematory, can burn, I think it was like 30 bodies at a time. It takes about 3 hours to burn the bodies. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about 180 bodies being burned a day in one crematorium. One. That is Biohazard, Resident Evil level stuff. Start looking, start researching, start watching this. Because we are literally watching Resident Evil unfold. And I mean, I'm getting to the point now where it's OJ trial, baby. I can't take my eyes off of it. I can't take my eyes off of it, man. I just, I'm like, holy crap. This is now, and this is in a few days. It went from, it's okay, to absolute Armageddon in China. And it's all over the world now. It's all over the world. And one person can easily infect 14 others. And Thailand, they are treating the patients with AIDS medication and having success. HIV AIDS medication to treat a flu. Thailand has come out and said, we are using HIV AIDS medications and having success in treating this virus. Not antibiotics. Not antibiotics, baby. HIV AIDS medication. I remember back in the 80s with the AIDS, when the AIDS scare really came around and it really got intense. And on one news report, when they were really just whipping up the fear on this thing, they were worried that it would mutate and go airborne. That was 20 years ago. Now, I'm not saying this is airborne HIV. That's a hypothesis. So I hate bringing good people bad news, but this is something where we're living in very interesting times. And this particular incident is going to change the way the world works. Economically, the Chinese government, and this is the important thing, this is one of these things, it's not the most important thing, I'll tell you what that is at the end. They have funneled money into the economy to prop it up. How long, I want you to think about the United States. We're looking at China like it's on the other side of the world, which it is. But if the United States was shutting down 15 cities, no one in, no one out, no travel, military lockdown, mandatory curfews, complete shutdown of 15 American cities. I mean, Wuhan might as well be Dallas or LA. It's huge. Millions of people live there. Millions. And you shut all those down in the United States. Military lockdown. Mandatory curfews. Men in hazmat suits with rifles on every corner. That's what's going on in China right now. Blocking roadways with stone and dirt and bulldozers so that it is impossible for somebody to leave or to run a checkpoint. It's not possible. It's complete lockdown. A la Raccoon City, baby! It's freaking Raccoon City in Wuhan. What's next? Nukes? You got freaking Umbrella Corp a 20-minute drive from the fish market, baby. What if that happened here? It would be economically devastating, and there is no signs that it's slowing. They are overrun. Let me say that again. They are overrun. Their medical staff in the entire region of the country, the size of Texas or greater, is completely overrun. Their staff is at the breaking point. Their hospitals are overloaded and spilling off into the street. The crematoriums are running 24 hours a day. Think if that was happening in the United States, how that would affect you. Whether you got sick or not. Let's just say you don't get sick. Let's just say you're fortunate. It doesn't affect you directly. Nobody catches it. Nobody in your family catches it. Think about the economic devastation that's going on in China right now. Will they ever recover? Probably, but it might be a generation. This might be as bad as the Great Leap Forward, where millions died across the country of starvation. This is going to affect everybody economically at some point. So get ready. Buy some silver, stash some cash, buy some rice, get some water. This would be my recommendation. I already have quite a bit of that already taken care of. Get ready. Get ready for America to have to step in and deal with this situation, because it is running rampant over there. The most important thing, and let me stress, the most important thing here is the Chinese people. God bless them. If you believe in God, pray for the Chinese people. Pray for these people, because their government is less concerned with their personal safety and more concerned with their image on the world stage. Even that mask is beginning to fall a bit as they shut this country down. Our heart, our thoughts, our prayers go out to the Chinese people. They are on the verge of complete collapse in this area of China, and you don't know what other form of reaction this is inevitably going to take. There's only so long you can keep people locked down in martial law. There's only so long until people come out into the streets. They're out of medication. They have begged Europe. More than likely, HIV medication is what they're looking for. They're begging Europe to send as much medication as they possibly can, because they are absolutely being drawn down. So remember the Chinese people in your thoughts. Despite the fascination of what's going on, the terrible fascination of what's going on, remember there are real people over there, suffering, dying, being disappeared, family members. It is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. It is a nightmare scenario like you cannot imagine. This has been LVA Otoro, the Fancy Action Now. Stay tuned.
Bruh.